Now move on to our final panel. We'll do questions jointly. So when those two speakers finish, they'll all speak. We turn it over to Lagan Akinlole to be the moderator of that session on Beyond the Ballot Box, Improving Governance and the Rule of Law in the African Context, with Margaret Murray, the spokesperson for the Anti-Corruption Bureau of Sierra Leone, as well as Ayo Obina, founder of Ayo Obina Consulting. Here you go, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lagan Akinlole. I want to thank you for your continued interest and debate and involvement in what has been a long day, and we do appreciate your input and impact. A brief about myself: I'm a journalist, a political analyst, and occasional writer on issues involving Africa and Nigeria mainly, but the continent is very large and we care about it a lot. So the topic for the plenary number 5 today is Beyond the Ballot Box, Improving Governance and the Rule of Law in the African Context. Many people have thought about how to improve elections, how to improve democracy in Africa. A prime example, the African Union shared their 50-year development and transformation program for how Africa can fulfill its full potential. They looked at governance, they looked at democracy, they looked at respect for human rights, justice, and the rule of law. Former UN Secretary Kofi Annan, may his soul rest in peace, said that good governance is perhaps the single and most important factor in eradicating poverty and promoting development on the continent. So with us here today, we have two interesting people who will discuss with us about issues pertaining Africa and the rule of law and good governance. Margaret Murray, who is a lawyer and the PRO for the Sierra Leone Anti-Corruption Agency, and Mr. Ayo Obina, a consultant and very well versed on the issue. I think I will open up the session to them to give you their opinion and their point of view on how best we can tackle these issues. Do you want to start?
Sure, can I use this? Good evening. As he rightly said, my name is Margaret Murray, and I'm the Public Relations Officer of the Anti-Corruption Commission in Sierra Leone. Basically, I'll be talking about corruption because obviously we all know corruption touches every sphere of governance and the rule of law in Africa and around the world as well. And being the Public Relations Officer of the Anti-Corruption in the last 18 months, I have seen where corruption has eaten into the very fabric of development in my country and in Africa and Europe as well, but mostly in Sierra Leone. I can, safely talk about Sierra Leone because I know the statistics, I know the figures, I know the facts, and I'm here to give you updates and give you, live facts about the things happening in my country, because I cannot speak for other countries, so I'll probably just limit myself and then try in a way to broaden that into the African context or into the global context, because corruption, as you all know, is the same everywhere. It's just packaged differently in different countries and in different continents. So basically, the rule of law and governance in Africa, when you think about corruption, when it touches those areas, you get to think about the fact that as young people, as myself in Sierra Leone, we have a population that is a young population. And unfortunately, we have probably some of the highest illiteracy rates in Sierra Leone. And when we have politicians in my country who use young people to do their dubious jobs and to do their use them as a weapon to create havoc in the country, and at the end of the day try to in a way get to those people to tell them that certain people are responsible for the way we are living, forgetting that they, the politicians, are the reason why a place like Sierra Leone is underdeveloped. A place like Sierra Leone has the highest illiteracy rate. A place like Sierra Leone has so many idle youths, unemployed youths, and having them living in ghettos and slum areas and not being able to compete at the world level, as other countries like Ghana, the United States, or the United Kingdom. It is because of them. So as Anti-Corruption Commission, we have a three-pronged approach which we use at the Commission to, try to get the people of Sierra Leone to fully understand the reason why we are where we are. 1, prevention. 2, public education. And 3, enforcement. Prevention, basically, we're trying to tell people that yes, in as much as we're educating you on the ills and evils of corruption, we're also trying to prevent corruption from happening. And we go into MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies to try and set up what we call the independent the IMCs, which is the independent integrity committees within MDAs, so that it's much easier to make complaints within your departments or industries, agencies or ministries, so that you can handle it within yourselves. And if you find if you find the means where you cannot handle it, then it's easier to transfer those complaints to anti-corruption. And also we do have integrity clubs and accountability clubs in universities and schools as well, so that we have this slogan which we use: catch them young. In primary schools, in secondary schools, and also in universities, because at the end of the day, these youths, these young people are the people who will come into society to take up jobs, to take up public offices, to take up private offices, who will actually have to lead Sierra Leone on a global platform. So it's better for us to catch them young at those stage, so that we're instilling them integrity, so that they know that corruption on a whole is evil. Corruption is the reason that has eaten into the very fabric of our development, and with integrity, regardless of your payroll or your salary, with integrity, you can help further the development of the country. And also public education. I've talked about public education. We're not just talking to the elite, because the elite know exactly what corruption is. Probably the most popular definition of corruption is using abuse of public or private office for personal gain, or as Professor Patrick Lumumba would say, it is theft. It's nothing more than that but theft. So basically we tell people, we're not just talking to the elite. The elite, yes, they know exactly what's happening. They're most of the time, they're the reason why we are where we are. So they're not really much of a target. The target is the youth, those in the slum, the illiterate people, those who don't know exactly what corruption entails, just believing that corruption is limited to public officers. But then it's not just the public officers. It's corruption is basically everywhere, and we're targeting everybody within the country. You don't necessarily have to be working in public office to engage yourself in corruption. And also we have enforcement within the Anti-Corruption Commission, three-pronged approach, wherein we use either the court-led approach, or we use the non-conviction-based asset recovery, wherein we recover. So far in the last 18 months, since my current boss, Francis Ben Kaifala, has taken up office, we've recovered over $2 million, and that's just in 18 months. And for the past 20 years, since Anti-Corruption Commission of Sierra Leone has been set up, that is the most amount anti-corruption has recovered in just 18 months. So that's a big plus to us and the country as a whole. And also, I would say Sierra Leone has probably the most the strongest anti-corruption laws in the whole of Africa. We just had our Amendment Act being passed in Parliament in October of 2019, wherein before we had clauses within the old anti-corruption, the Parent Act, wherein people could come to the Commission, and where we couldn't reach the prosecutorial threshold, we go into, an agreement with people who had engaged themselves in corruption, and ask you to pay back all what our investigations have actually led us to believe that you had misappropriated. But now with the new law, you pay back all the money you had actually misappropriated, plus a 10% interest rate on that, and also you preclude yourself from holding public office for nothing less than 3 years. So these are just some of the good things happening. And if we handle corruption on a whole, then I think good governance and the rule of law would definitely, be on a smooth path to the development of Sierra Leone and Africa as a whole.
Thank you, Margaret. That was amazing. Can we get a round of applause, please? The passion in which you speak about it and the developments taking place leads me to believe that change is around the corner, and the hard work that you guys are doing are invaluable and helps the new generation and the people to actually figure out what comes next. And corruption is huge because Africa has been bedeviled by it for God knows how long, and it has torn at the moral fabric of our nations, and it has brought us down to the base level where we should be further high up. So I commend you on the work that you're doing, and do not lose hope and carry on fighting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Mr. Ayo Abina, and I want him to personally look at good governance. How do we improve good governance? How do we improve the structure of education and the political class and change the aspect of the way people view things in government? So please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Like I've explained earlier on, my background has been in finance and banking forever. But in the last 2 months, I've started a consultancy outfit, and I've been partnering with people across Africa, the Middle East, and America to try and get things done. And the critical tagline that we work on is that you have to disrupt and then create, and then it allows you to lead. Basically, all the unusual ideas that you have, we try to bring it constructively to life. Now, beyond the ballot box, improving governance and the rule of law, I like to look at things a little bit differently at times, unusually. So, I am told that someone stole in a particular environment. Let's say it's a poor. What are the chances that a family of 10 that have very little to eat, what are the chances that some of the children there may steal, compared to a family of 4 or 5 that's reasonably affluent? If you ask me, I probably would say that the chances that a poor family of 10 may steal, okay, is high. So the point I'm trying to make is I try to relate the issues at times to the circumstances around you. And then what you must do is to change the circumstances around you so that you can get a different kind of result. There's no point in you backing at me and telling me that this is what is right. We must constructively create the environment for the things that are right. Not Africa, not just Africa. There's no part of the world that will grow without proper governance. But how do you get there? And I would just like to take a couple of issues as it relates to Africa now. The first thing is funding. How do leaders become leaders in Africa? I'll tell you. People go into their bank accounts, they sell their houses, they raise money from a very close-knit family or friends, hoping that when they get to the position of leadership, they will be able to affect the lives of those people positively. Maybe they give them jobs, they give them contracts, there's nepotism in making appointments, so perhaps you will not make the very best appointment in terms of merit to affect the general population. That's how you get funding. How do you get funding in a country like America? People go out there, they come up with a set of policies and say, these are the things that will do to affect the lives of the many. And then people start to chip in. A $5 here, a $10 here, a $15. So you're beholden to that numerous volume of people. And except you change that base that allows the funding for leaders to be diverse and amongst the cross-section of the population, you're going to keep having issues. Because if, for instance, in Sierra Leone today we say somebody needs to, and I've listened to it, I think you're extremely brilliant. Somebody needs to be president here. I do not know the extent to which perhaps you can fund that election to allow you to begin to lead from the top to get things done. Of course, the other way that I was discussing with some other persons today is to say, you know what, it's fine. I'll agree to most of the things you guys are saying. And the moment they fund it and you become the leader, you change things radically. That can happen. But minus that, you're going to go to these traditional channels and things will go wrong. Education. So the extent to which you can get the bulk of the people educated, for them to understand that good governance will affect their lives tomorrow, is key. Like you were saying, a lot of the youth today are being used for different levels of activities that are not fair or right or nefarious to get leaders into power. Now, they do not understand, to a reasonable extent, that their future is what is being mortgaged. So to a large extent, we need to have a much more robust project at educating people to understand exactly the values of this. And if you look at the places where democracy thrives, where good governance thrives, you will see that the level of literacy, and literacy now does not mean having a university degree, but access to information and knowledge will affect the way things happen. Because then people start to ask questions. How many people ask the right questions in Africa? Not really. So that's a major issue. I also think in a place like Africa, perhaps what we need to do is to insist that leaders should have a single term. The reason is very simple. Somebody becomes the leader today, and he's going to run 2-3 terms of, say, 4 years, 5 years, whatever the Constitution stipulates. He's beholden to the cabal or to the strong forces in that polity because he wants the next term. He hasn't even started the first one. He's already thinking of the next one. What happens if, for instance, you say, you know what, rather than, like, for instance, in Nigeria, usually the style is you can have 2 terms of 4 years. What if you say, you know what, 1 term of 5 years? That's it. So from day one, you're bothered about good governance, you're bothered about getting things right, you're not beholden to anyone over what you may require. The things I'm talking about are the practical things that I think would affect where we need to get into. And I hear about corruption as well, a whole lot. And that's the bane of a lot of things. But part of it is education. Why does a man need to amass $1 billion for his generation unborn? He just doesn't understand. Insecurity is the bulk of it. He doesn't even understand how the numbers work. So he thinks, you know what, anything I can get makes a whole lot of sense to me to be able to live the kind of lives I want and my generation unborn. Failing to understand that the people around you today and the lives they live is actually a reflection of you. We really don't get that. So I think these are some of the issues we have to look at. The institutions need to be strong. Take an example of what happens in a country like America. So you see people in the Congress look at the president eyeball straight and say, we do not agree with what has happened, you've got to go. They are not bothered about forms of vengeance or what have you, because the institutions are strong. If you go to the judiciary, you're certain that a judge will deliver his ruling without fear or favor because they have made the institutions to be stronger than the humans that are occupying those leadership positions. If they do not exist in the continent of Africa to a large extent, we're still bothered about what good governance might mean. Because then those people sitting in the judiciary that's supposed to be the last bastion of hope for a lot of people are worried as well, and their judgment is being tempered by what they think might happen to them in terms of retribution and what have you. So, to what extent, for instance, is the media strong and can stay out of the fray? The bottom line of what I'm trying to drive at is we know where we want to get to, which is good governance. The issue is that what are the factors that are mitigating against us, especially in Africa, getting there? And except we constructively remove a whole lot of those factors, we'll just be grazing it. That's my talk.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ayo. Round of applause, please. No doubt we've learned quite a lot from both of them, and extremely engaging individuals who have enlightened us to various aspects of what it is to be corruption or what it is to find common sense in a world full of political rigmarole. So we have to try better to be better and learn from each other on ways to move forward. So now we want to open the floor up to questions, and I'm very sure there'll be quite a few moving forward. So do you want to grab the mic? Yep.
Thank you, Dr. Ayapina. It's instructive the way you found the route in terms of politicians wanting to go into politics in Africa compared to the American type. Like Bloomberg, Michael Bloomberg, did not raise any funds.
No.
He campaigned on his own personal money, and therefore his policies will be his own.
Absolutely.
So what parallels do we have in developing African countries that draw a real thick line between entrepreneurs entering politics and career politicians self-perpetuating? Because that's essentially what happens. Once you taste power, you stay in power. But what mechanism do you think we're going to have? Because the new generation is a lot more educated, a lot more literate, and a lot more connected thanks to social media. Thank you.
I can't remember your name, but you spoke about the environment needs to be changed so that we can have a catalyst of change for the many. And you also spoke about corruption. What needs to happen in the environment for change to come about? What needs to happen?
I also want to interject here. We can also ask questions to David Luke, who gave us that trade presentation, which kind of answered everyone's questions. So succinct.
Thank you. That's a question for David, in fact. So my name is Arif Zaman. I sit on the board of the Commonwealth Business Women's Network. I wanted to ask a question to David, actually. I thought your presentation was really outstanding, and I wanted to ask you about, there was a major report produced for Commonwealth ministers and trade officials a few days ago in London, looking at the digital economy. And very significantly, I mean, they said that unless we get attention to things like digital infrastructure, building digital skills, looking at the regulatory barriers, we're not going to get the scalability that we need in relation to digitization. So to what extent do you think those are real barriers? And I also would like you to make the link to your recent report that I know you published on gender mainstreaming in the African Free Trade Agreement as well. Thank you.
On the digital economy, yes, of course, everything that you've said, the Commonwealth report is spot on. Yeah, the Commonwealth report is spot on. Very clearly, the digital technologies disrupting every sphere of life, but we don't have regulatory policies and practices in place, which means that there's need to put those in place. Yes, infrastructure, the digital infrastructure, having broadband interoperability between systems, all that is very important. Also, yes, as you say, current barriers need to be looked at as part of the regulatory environment. Actually, that is why the African governments have decided that they would be looking at e-commerce and looking to see how to have common rules on e-commerce. There are some controversial areas, of course, which I know your report deals with that, including ownership of data, localization of data, data centers, etc. So these are all issues that need to be looked at. African governments are wary of doing this on a global scale because they're small players. As you know, at the WTO, there are discussions going on e-commerce. Most African countries have not joined those discussions because they feel that they're at a disadvantage, that is better perhaps on a regional basis, on a continental basis, to arrive at some consensus first, and then build upon that to see how they could take that to the global level. Your other point on trade and gender, this is something that we, of course, emphasizing. And for me personally, it gives me great pride to say that we are the leading source of knowledge on gender-related issues, because we have prioritized that in the work that we do. We do a lot on that. I could perhaps in the bilateral tell you more. But basically, this is an issue that has come up in these discussions. It's 51% of the population. If you empower the women and you go, and to ensure that policies are put in place that facilitate women doing more at the marketplace, the whole country reaps the benefits. So yes, we have been pursuing and advocating very strongly on the economic empowerment of women as part of this trade deal. Let me end with this point, and that is to say that in the framework agreement of the AfCFTA, it is one of the few trade agreements you'll find anywhere that has as an explicit objective gender equality. And that was not by mistake. It was put there deliberately through the kind of analytical work to show that this is important. And if at all this agreement is to be litigated, as I understand it, lawyers look at what the objectives of the agreement are in litigation and so on. So gender equality being up there with other objectives like manufacturing, industrialization, sustainable development, etc., does highlight the importance of the issue.
Thank you so much for that. Truly appreciated. Who wants to take the next question?
Well, he was addressing one of you to me, Professor.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, what I try to do, and in answering your prof, is that I always try to situate every question or issue within a particular locality. So I don't want to take an English example and use it to answer an African question. So for instance, if you look at the issue about Bloomberg, it was simple. He had $500 million to run on ad. He placed his bet on Super Tuesday, and he lost out because he does not have the base to get things done. So he scaled the hurdle of finance, but then what relationship does he have with the Democratic Party and the people of those policies and principles over years? It was quite weak. Now flip it to Africa. If you have all that money, you probably may not win, because beyond the funding, there's also the powers that be that holds basic things. So flip back to Nigeria in 1999 when Obasanjo became the president. He wasn't by any chance a rich man, but he was seen by the necessary principles as someone that can advance the cost of the nation at that point in time. So they brought money from everywhere. So my argument is you're probably not going to get anything done except you build the institutions. And I think it is the institutions actually that will deliver good governance.
Yes. We're pressed for time, but I thought that was as thorough as it can get. So thank you so much. Final results from
I'll just answer the young lady's question about change. So personally, for me, I would say for change to take place, the willingness must be present. The mindset is the first thing you have to tackle when it comes to change. That's why at Anti-Corruption, we're doing public education, right? So we go right into the mindsets of people to let them know exactly, as I said initially, the reason why we are where we are as a country, Sierra Leone, a developing country, or probably we're not even there, is because of us as a people, or we as a people in the past have not, accepted that there was a problem within our country. But now that we have a mindset change, we have the political will, we have the presidential will, and we have the will of the people, we're seeing how, the fight against corruption is progressing. We have the Afrobarometer, the Yes, the Mo Ibrahim Index. And we have all these indices coming together, seeing that we're progressing as a country in the fight against corruption. And that is the reason why we've been able to recover $2 million United States dollars. That is the reason why we've been able to recover some of the government properties that were lost in the system. That is the reason why today we have the people of Sierra Leone so confident in the Anti-Corruption Commission, even coming forward to make complaints when they go to institutions that are supposed to be, so easy to render services, but, when they ask for bribes and all of that, people are so confident to now come forward to anti-corruption to make complaints, knowing that, yes, we as a commission were there to fight for them and to fight for the good of the country. So basically, the first thing you have to do is change the mindset of people. Let them be willing to, accept change and, be willing to know that, yes, with change comes development in a nation.
Thank you so much. That was absolutely brilliant. Your understanding and your depth of knowledge about the issue is mind-blowing. And once again, continue doing your great work. And do we have any time for more questions, Joseph? It seems that we're pressed for time right now. I want to thank you all for being part of this plenary session. And hopefully moving forward, we can have more time to discuss afterwards.
I want to thank you all so much for coming, and we look forward to seeing all of you with your bright, shiny faces here tomorrow for the second day, where we have a very great discussions on the themes of education, on the themes of youth, on the themes of sport for development, and also topics related to economics. Yes, I think some of the speakers will be around for networking, and thank you again all so much for coming. Thank you.